Well, first, Jim and organizers from launch, I say thank you for the opportunity to come and present and really share our story, the founder's story, WiseWear's story, and what this ecosystem is doing, and the great work that you're doing as well. Jim's a very humble guy, but he is incredible. Behind the scenes in any thriving startup community, you have the guy that's the master networker. And he has introduced me to David Monroe. He has introduced me to others and helped stimulate this entrepreneur to get to the places I needed to go. And behind the scenes, he humbly does this. And there's a lot of folks in the community that are doing this to help take our city to the next level. So I titled this presentation, A Story of an Inspired Dreamer Turned Biomedical Engineer Turned Startup Entrepreneur. And the topic, which Jim and I had talked about, is really to focus on what it takes to start a business and the journey of an entrepreneur, which is not a linear path, like a legal career or a medical career. It is a round and about, and I heard this over here, and I heard this over there, and I'm going to go do this. You know, it's not a very linear path. But before I get into the core of the presentation, hopefully this clicker will work, I wanted to thank the people that actually made this possible. So first, my parents, my mother and father, thank you so much. Please. As they believed in me since the beginning, and really having a strong support system is really critical to living out your dreams. And my mother was always a huge, huge supporter, and both my father as well. The WiseWear team, my partner in crime, Holly Coulter, she is my real secret weapon. And whether you call her an executive assistant, an office manager, a COO, she's pretty much everything. So anytime I'm setting up meetings or partnering, she is the key person. And she keeps me organized. And we did a personality test, and it was hysterical. We are literally almost a perfect match in terms of opposites in every single category. And I was always wondering how it was such a perfect fit, and we worked so well together. But Holly, thank you. And she actually told, yes, please. It was funny, we actually brought in one of our newer employees, and they asked Holly, so what are like the hours like at WiseWear? And Holly said, whatever it takes. And this person found that, I'm not sure if they found that exciting or scary, but Holly is that kind of person, just whatever it takes. And my wife and kids. So with every startup entrepreneurial journey, there's a big sacrifice that's made. And my wife and kids, my wife in particular she was the one that actually encouraged me to make this jump. She was the first person I pitched. So I had this idea, it was in 2013, I want to start this company and make a whole family of products that keep people safe and secure. And she said to me, she knew how unhappy I was with my current position. And she said, well, you pretty much have to do it. I was like, what do you mean I have to do it? She's like, well, you're unhappy, and if you continue acting and being unhappy, you're going to make us miserable, and you're going to regret it if you don't do it. So you're pretty much stuck. You have to start WiseWear. And when it was positioned that way, it made it a lot easier to make the jump. But having her through, since I was 19 years old, has been an absolute godsend. And my little ones, who, they've been amazing. They love coming into the office and playing with the gadgets, and I'm not sure if they totally understand what Daddy does, but we have a lot of fun. So the goal of this presentation, I have a few. One is I want to give you a really accurate account of an entrepreneur that started as an engineer and really give you an accurate account of that journey. And I hope it's informative and educational and mildly entertaining. And the most important goal, though, is I hope that somebody in this room that's kind of on the edge and thinking of starting a business and making that jump actually does. Because the courage to jump from this fishbowl into chasing your dreams is the big step. And so I hope there's somebody, at least one person. I'll think I'm a success if one person pushes them to start a new business. So I broke up the presentation into 4 discrete chapters. Inspired dreamer, or this is fat redhead baby chapter. Second, biomedical engineering, and which got me down here to San Antonio, Texas. The entrepreneurial crazy journey, and then I'll put a call to action, and hopefully we'll have to get some of the community to start putting their money where their mouth is and get a Q&A. So in 1980, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, with David Robinson coming here in a few hours. I'm a die-hard Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and also a die-hard San Antonio Spurs fan now, since I've been here over 10 years. So there's some obvious conflict there whenever we get to the finals. As a young kid, I love Legos. I love building stuff. I love constructs. Always had difficulty reading and reading comprehension, but I love building and mathematics. And I love Disney. The first time we went to Disney World, it blew my mind. You know, that some guy that drew up a mouse and then started this entire organization that just kids love and parents are shoveling money out to go see. Just blew my mind. And I remember the first time we went on the monorail, and I was like, this is like, it's like heaven for a child. This was a moment that really kind of shaped maybe my entrepreneurial personality. When I was 12 years old, my mother and my biological father got divorced. And my mom was just a warrior. We were in a really tough spot, and my mom and I moved in with my grandparents. We moved from the city that we lived in to my grandparents' house. And no one in my family had ever been to college. And so my mom and I, when we were sitting on the couch together, watching Golden Girls, and we didn't know what was going to happen next. And my mom then had the courage to make some big steps. At the age of 33, she decided she was going to go from flipping through People magazine to go to community college, go to Ursuline, where she then studied nursing and graduated valedictorian, and then she wasn't even done there. Then she went to law school and started her own law firm to help other women that really were struggling with divorce in family law. So, thank you, Mom. Because watching, you know, it's one thing when I tell my boys, do this, do that, do this. When you see, I got to watch her study, put in the time, put in to get those degrees, to start the business, and watch that. It was really important, and it reminds me that my kids are probably seeing, and I'm probably influencing them even more so than I even would think so. My mom was making about 30 grand a year, and we were living at my grandparents' house, and I went and visited a high school, an all-boys school. That way I could stay focused. And I went to visit this high school, and I loved it, and I fell in love with it. It was called University School. It was on the east side of Cleveland. And we left, and we didn't even ask the price, tuition. And when we got home, we ended up finding out it was $15,000 a year. And my mom was too embarrassed to tell her that we were financially strapped, so she paid $15,000 a year for me to go to this school. And this school really made it really shaped the way I viewed the world. It was highly competitive, and it was cool to do well. So all the students and everyone really wanted to perform. We had actually a guy that was the best chess player in the world in our high school. The CEO and founder of Fitbit, coincidentally, was 3 years older than me from university school. So I don't know if there's wearable tech in the classrooms there or not, but that's also funny. So I got to hang out with James Park at CES when we launched our first product, and it was really exciting to meet with him. Engineering. So after high school, you know, I loved engineering, I loved math, I loved CAD, And a lot of that stuff that is actually what we'd use today in a lot of our products, GPS in particular. Went to Vanderbilt University and had a lot of fun in undergrad, and then also studied really hard. And one of the projects that I remember that really got me interested in technology development even further was a DARPA project we worked on used MEMS sensing. And so we could detect when there was anthrax in the air and looking at different signatures. So this was a fascinating project. We got second place, not first, but we did as good as we could. And it was a really enjoyable project that led me to the next phase, where I wanted to figure out where to go next. And after 4 years of biomedical engineering, I really was interested in learning more, but I was on the fence. My parents were attorneys. I saw my mom's success, so I thought, maybe I'll go take the LSAT and start a law, and look into patent law. Well, I took the LSAT, and I basically fell asleep halfway through the test. I mean, I'm one of these guys that if I'm not emotionally and passionate about what I'm doing, I'm just, I'm done. I'm all in or I'm out. And I was just kind of going through the motions. So that was good. God kind of slammed that door. Looked at medical school, but I wasn't so sure I'd be a particularly strong medical student. And then I took the GRE and ended up going to graduate school, and I stayed at Vanderbilt University. So this is how I felt the first day of graduate school. I didn't really understand that I was signing up for a 5-year commitment to get this PhD, and they didn't tell me either that it was going to be about 10 times harder and 1/10 the fun as undergrad. So I was like 2 years in, I was like, I don't know if I can do the rest of this. I literally was at a point, and I'm obviously incredibly extroverted, so this was very focused, and I was by myself most of the time, and it was painful. So when we eventually finished, my wife and I, she was like my partner through all of this, she would actually come in with me. This is a picture when I was at Vanderbilt. We used to grow these skin equivalents, so grow skin cultures from scratch. So dermal fibroblasts and collagen, and lay down this type 4 collagen for the basement membrane, and then put different types of melanocytes and keratinocytes, and we grow the skin from scratch. And I was really bad in the lab. Every time I went back to the incubator, I'm like, oh, it's infected, and this one's dead. And so I used to have to get my own cellular incubator. That way I wouldn't infect anybody else's. I then came down to San Antonio. So after the PhD, I didn't know what to do, and I ended up connecting with a guy named Dr. Pat Roach from the Air Force Research Lab. Fantastic guy, incredibly sharp. He worked at AFOA and the Air Force Office of Scientific Research as a program manager. Fantastic guy. He brought me in to start a lab, and it was called the Terahertz Biosensing Lab. He forgot to tell me, though, that when I got down here that there was nothing there. So there was an empty closet and no expertise except him, and I was supposed to be the guy. So that was my first kind of entrepreneurial experience. And so Dr. Bennett Ivey and I then took down the shelves and turned this closet into a Terahertz biosensing lab. And it was a fantastic experience for me to really see what it's like to start a business. So this was kind of like starting a business within the Department of Defense. Got some good experience raising money internally, growing a team from just one person up to about 10 people, and publishing our work in book chapters and expressing those findings in different ways. So this is a fantastic experience. And during that time, I also had an opportunity to serve as the program manager for the SBIR program. So is anyone in here interested in starting a tech business maybe in the next couple years? Anyone? 1, 2. Have you heard of the SBIR program? Have you heard of it? Okay, this is important, so we'll talk afterward. But the SBIR program is called the Small Business Innovation Research Program. So the federal government put together about $3 billion annually for this program, where they fund new technology companies that are small businesses, so less than 500 employees, to build new technologies. And it's referred to as the country's seed fund, because it's truly the only free money in the world. It's non-dilutive capital, and the grants range from $250,000 up to $2 million, phase 1, phase 2 grants. So basically, you could get the funds to build your technology without even bringing in investor dollars. So I got to serve as a program manager for this for a few years. And I'd come up with these ideas. I'd write up these calls for new products, new technology that didn't exist, send them over to DC, and then they would post them. And once they were approved and posted, then the proposals would come in. And we'd get 60 companies sending in proposals like 50, 60 pages long. That was painful. And review them and pick one or two. And then we would fund them to build that new technology that doesn't exist. And these companies would really thrive from this because they take those resources, and what do you do when you have financial capital now and you need to build something? You hire other strong technology and engineers. So that's what the federal government does to stimulate local economies by bringing in technology players. Okay. Now we get into the entrepreneurship. So I'm going to walk through the details on this, but I want to show one video that I think pretty much summarizes the entire journey of an entrepreneur and a developer and an innovator. And if we could start the video.
Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Beyond the watch, there are ways out. There is a light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Beyond the watch, the gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life. Sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it, despite rejection and the worst odds. And it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride line straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.
That's good. Thank you. Sorry, Mom. my mom says, that video is so dark, Jerry. I was like, well, Mom, it's really the experience. I mean, it truly is. I mean, the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial ride are just brutal, and anyone that's been through it will tell you kind of the ride. You know, you only really feel like two emotions, euphoria and terror, and lack of sleep enhances them both. So you're just living on this. So back to 2010, I was running a research lab, publishing, everything looked pretty good on the outside, but I was not happy. I'm not a very good drawer, but so this is me, unhappy, stable job, tenure track job. I didn't know what to do though. I was stuck. I put all this time and energy into biomedical engineering. What was I supposed to do next? Then I came across this. Raise your hand if you've seen this before. E-key guy? You've seen this? Yeah, take a picture of this. This is pretty good. So, reason for being. At my job, I was using my skills and my domain expertise. I was making okay money, so I was in here. The problem was, I was doing a lot of basic science research, and I wanted to make products that can make a difference. You know, I wanted to see the impact. Maybe I'm just incredibly impatient, but I wanted to see more impact, and I wanted to see it faster. And I also wanted to love and be proud of what I did. And so this intersection, I call that the sweet spot. So if you're looking at a new job or looking at a new business to start, I'd recommend trying to get in there. Because if you're starting, for instance, I don't have any background in app development. I have a team that can help develop those apps. I wouldn't start a business that just made a certain type of app. I need to really have some level of domain expertise in the business. I need to genuinely love it and find that it's bringing some kind of impact to the world. And it also needs to pay, right? Because we can do things to help, whether it's a STEM, in the STEM variety like SAMSAT, to encourage the next scientists and engineers of America, but still there needs to be a financial piece. I started WiseWear in the idea emerged in about, well, technically in 2007, when my mom and my grandpa went to every one of my graduations, and 3 of them at Vanderbilt. And he'd come, and I'm like, Grandpa, it's the same thing every year. You don't need to come to this. He's like, no, I look forward to coming, and then I don't really enjoy it when I'm here. It's kind of boring. He said, but when I go home, I remember it, and I like that. And 2007, we noticed that my grandpa was walking with a little shuffle across the beautiful grass at Vanderbilt. And my mom is a valedictorian in nursing, and I'm supposed to be trained in biomedical engineering. And we knew something wasn't right, even at that time, but we didn't know if there's anything we could do. He ended up falling in his home. He fell a few times. He fell in his home in 2010 in October, and he passed away the day after Christmas. And it was one of the darkest, hardest times for our family. After he passed, that's when the idea, this was the spark or the idea. What if, I was like, this is 2010. We have hundreds of sensors on aircraft, automobiles, that can tell us, right now my car outside has a light on saying you need to change your oil and do some maintenance, right? Why don't we have that? Very, very simple technology. What if we had a hearing aid or glasses that could pick up the biosignals, look at the changes in gait, look at the changes in balance, and then predict and prevent the senior from falling? Not just have a button, but pick up those cues, which are there. We saw, and now activate and actually do P4, which is predictive, preventative, personalized, participatory. The IoT and connected devices makes this possible. So with the idea, I didn't know what to do. And this is where it gets interesting. So I went to the DOD, and I got some paperwork signed saying I had this idea. I kind of want to start building something on the weekends. And they said, oh, that's fine. You can start this. You can start to do that. Got the paperwork signed. And I decided I would start building this startup, which became WiseWear. It's a really rickety boat, my wife said. And so as I was at the stable job, I'm building my rickety boat, getting ready to jump. I ended up in 2012 going and pursuing an MBA at University of Texas up in Austin on the weekends. And my entire goal was starting this business. So I took and I learned finance. I networked with a lot of people in the class. I basically worked with other startup entrepreneurs and other VCs, and I was like a sponge. I was taking it all in. And that was the time that we actually got started. And during that point, this is where I met Holly. I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. I have no clue what to do next. So I looked online and found a guy named David Spencer. And I reached out to David Spencer, and Holly Coulter, my assistant, was there. And she said, well, David will meet with you, but first you have to take a quiz. Jack Gill's 16 characteristic test for entrepreneurs. So I got this test. She said, go sit with your wife and take this and score yourself on this test. Went home, we were looking at it. My wife was looking at it, and she said, oh my gosh. She's like, this is really interesting. She's like, you're not crazy, you're an entrepreneur. And I was blazing on every one of these categories. And it was really interesting because a lot of the other entrepreneurs I knew, when they score this is a big entrepreneur, a wannabe entrepreneur. I'm not even sure what those categories are, but you basically score this. It's very helpful, though, and Gartner has something similar, because it gives you the tools to kind of look at and say, do I have the personality for this? Because the road as a founder entrepreneur, it's not for everybody. You know, it's really brutal. WiseWear's formed. We started at the house with my retirement account, some credit cards. Just got paid off, actually, so it's good. And the vision here is create a whole family of connected devices that could connect to a secure server, our cloud services, that could provide on-command emergency response. Essentially, next generation 911, where it doesn't just call 911, it actually will send all of your medical data, all of your health data, the proper GPS, and get help there faster. You save time, you will save costs, you will save a lot of insurance companies money, health insurance, and you're going to save lives, most importantly. And that was really the emphasis and the focus of our entire business. We do some cool stuff. Actually, I have some of the products here. Thank you. Oh, this one's vibrating. Must be, he's alive. So this is our first MVP product that we took to the market. Smart jewelry. As I said, we didn't set out to make jewelry. This kind of happened by mistake. This happens in entrepreneurship as well. We discovered that we could transmit Bluetooth and other cellular frequencies through this antenna system. It's an F-type inverted antenna. I went to CES in 2015. And a few of my colleagues, one of my fraternity brothers from Intel, said, man, you can make any metal device smart. Why are you just looking at the hearing aid? You know, the hearing aid is going to take some more time. You know, you got to get FDA approval. Why don't you make some consumer, like jewelry or belt buckles? And looking back, it was pretty funny because we're not jewelry designers. You know, we're firmware engineers, we're biomedical engineers, and we got an introduction to some jewelry designers, and we actually then partnered with Iris Apfel, who is she worked for the White House for 3 decades as an interior designer, and the lady with the little glasses. So we had the opportunity to work with her on some of these projects. So we leveraged our technology and launched our first product. In all the products that we work on, this is kind of where we operate, at this intersection. Engineering, design, health and safety. The design piece is important because we want, in order for people to use technology, we want to make the technology invisible. Whether it's a piece of jewelry, not a plastic button, or it's apparel. We just got recognition that we're awarded a very exciting smart apparel project. And so we're basically making everyday items smart, and rather than taking technology and making a gadget. The 4 pillars are WISE: wellness wearables, integration, safety and security, engineering excellence. So after my grandfather fell, looking at the data, we didn't even realize that how big this problem was. You know, with the 1 of 3 seniors is falling every year. That's every 2 seconds a senior's falling. So during this presentation, which is 4 hours long, that's a lot. Auto injury every 13 seconds. I actually saw an auto injury driving from Austin yesterday, and it scared me and the kids. And a fire, a crime, a stroke, cardiac arrest every 43 seconds. And with these, especially the life-threatening emergencies, every second truly does count. If you have a cardiac arrest, you have 10 minutes. If you don't get help, CPR and AED, automated external defibrillation, within 10 minutes, you die. Very scary. And so we're working on some projects there to get help there faster, and some also really exotic products that I think could, which I can't share, but I told my mom about. She thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, question. Go ahead. That's correct. Yeah, the data is really bad. I mean, you know, that's why even with my grandfather, he was a healthy guy. And and he was talking even over Thanksgiving. We were like, what's he talking about? He's fine. But it just quickly went. So how do we solve this? Okay, we got some device, that's a trigger. How are we going to make next generation 911? And what's wrong with current generation 911, right? If you call 911 from your smartphone, which I did yesterday for this accident that happened right in front of me, call 911. They say, where are you? I gave them the name of the road. South or north on 281? I'm like, I'm heading south. They couldn't find me. And I have a video, I'm not going to show this, but it's amazing because 911 infrastructure and emergency response was built in 1968 when AT&T had a monopoly on this. It was built for landlines. So they were structured with a GIS system where they would know where you are in your location based on the landline's call position. Clearly, with hundreds of millions of mobile phones now being used, and the fact that 60% of mobile phones, if you call 911 from this theater, they will not know where you are. That's pretty horrifying. And given the fact that 80% of 911 calls are coming from a smartphone. 12 million emergencies. You can see that this is an important item. So we've partnered with some of the leaders in public safety to solve this. Here's our cloud system. Here's a family of different devices that we're developing, some of which are on the market, some of which are in deep R&D mode, that send the accurate GPS, medical information, personal information, and two-way voice to the cloud and to dispatch, and getting help there faster. And that's really the core of WiseWear. So what's so different? Well, if you, like yesterday when I called 911, they got my call number, my latitude, longitude was typically off. This is what they see now at dispatch. They see name, they see any video streams, biometric signals that we send through. They see other kinds of video. They see that information. The way WiseWear is structured is the core of our business model is our monthly subscription. You hook up any device, our device or somebody else's device, to our cloud system, pay a fee, and you get into direct access to 911, next generation 911. We are pretty aggressive in terms of patent development, patent filings, and licensing. And then we also have numerous federal grants ranging from the NSF to other agencies that provide that non-dilutive capital to do the moonshots, the biosensing hearing aids, the other exotic projects, which then fund the company and allow us to stimulate this and then drive more co-branded products to the marketplace. Here's a few of the products that are the first one that we launched, Iris collection, connected eyewear collection that's coming, WiseAid, which was developed through the NSF, and then some smart garments that we recently got awarded a pretty large contract to build for the military. Our first launch was really cool, and I'm going to wrap it up in a few minutes. The first launch was really, really exciting. And this is actually, this sums up what gets me going from idea to the shelf. So going from a drawing, a concept, designing that, and taking from pencil to production. The moment that we developed this product, and we're a small team, we're 7 people. And seeing that product, one on the Today Show for Top Tech of the Year, and then in the store at Saks, there's something about that creation that was just really exciting, and I'm hooked. And I want to do this forever. And that process is very exciting, and that's part of being an entrepreneur, is bringing that idea, making the big jump to the rickety boat, and bringing this thing to life. So, finally, call to action. What do we need to do here? There's a lot of players that are required in order for an entrepreneur to be successful in a community. You need the space, you need co-working spaces, and actually, let me start over here. You need events like this. When I was thinking of starting WiseWear, I went to Startup Grind. I went to other events at Geekdom to see other entrepreneurs and see how they got started and listen to them, listen to their story. Not so much the business, you can learn that. You can get mentors to teach you that stuff, but the emotion behind it, how did you make the jump? These events are critical to creating the network to know, as you introduced me to David Monroe, I'm like, wow, Data Point was started here and this is the guy. Had no idea. San Antonio is a big city. We need to connect. We need to continually network. And when I mean network, if I know that someone's starting a business, then I'm going to say, Deborah, my friend's starting a new technology business. Can you help them get started? Yes. And she's done a few of these. So connecting. When you know there's a hole and there's someone can solve that, to connect the people. And this is actually the key, too, with the money. If you're a accredited investor, put the money in. If you got extra capital that you're looking to diversify, put it in a San Antonio startup. Even if it's 25 grand, put it in. Preferably, put more. But 25 is fine. The large companies, USAA and others, these are critical partners. Working with them as a small business to get some of those initial relationships, that's very, very important. And it's important for us to help each other in this city. Universities are the feeders. New students, we take interns in at WiseWear, or students that just graduate from Trinity and bring them in. They want to see what it's like to be at a tech startup and get an opportunity. Mentors and successes, from the rack spaces to the other successful companies. We need to send the elevator down. We need to be mentors. We need to show them and tell our story and engage them and make time for them. Service providers, Geekdom, Port SA for working. We're putting the ingredients together. How are we doing? Well, interestingly, I pulled the data, and since 2013, our startup activity index was its lowest ever. And since then, it's been going up. I don't think that's all because of WiseWear, but it went up. Texas is second in startup activity, second state in the United States, fifth in growth entrepreneurship, and 18th Main Street. And Drew Paquette, he's going to talk about the ecosystem later today. So you're actually going to get in more detail on what we're doing well, and how we're going to improve. And I have one little image here. 14. We were 7th last year, and now we're 14th. We're sliding. We need more angels throwing money in. That's the key. And why are angels so important? This is why. When a company starts a business, they need money. When a company develops a product and starts going across this valley of death, they need a lot of money. So the investors need to be there. That's the only way they get through this. We have some new funds, fortunately. San Antonio Angel Network was recently created, where now angels are starting to learn about how to do this and start to deploy capital. We have some new VC funds, Geekdom Fund and Active Capital. I think there's only a few in San Antonio. And this is a big problem. If you look, where's San Antonio on the list in terms of venture capital funds? Oh, they're nowhere. They're not on the list. That's a big deal. So angel investments actually make up the vast majority of investments in startup technology companies. The angels need to step up. And one last video, and then we're done. So,
well, look at that. It's the beautiful Manuela coming down to Bidders Row with a pair of smart bracelets. Keeping you safe and connected, these WiseWear bracelets alert contacts, receive notifications, and track activity. Includes one with 18-karat gold plating and one with palladium plating.
Palladium plating?
We were on Price is Right this week. My friends got a real big kick out of this. I'd like to give away one of these to whoever can ask the best question. So, let's get started. Excellent question. So our first product is Bluetooth tethered to the smartphone. So if your smartphone is still connected, then it will function. Our next product will have a direct internet connection using low power wide access network. So the LPWAN connection will connect directly to the internet, does not need a smartphone. So most of the products that we make in the future will be direct internet connection.
When you're making your WiseWear,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not wired. Do you remove it to get it clean?
Brand new projects.
Excuse me?
It's a brand new project. It was just awarded this week. We've played with fusing different technologies into the apparel, but I'm happy to talk more detail on that later. Yeah. Question?
Have you partnered yet with the VA department for the soldiers, the wounded, or the veterans
We're very,
in Vietnam?
yeah, we'd like to. We haven't moved the needle too far on that, but we'd like to.
My dad passed away 2 months ago, and I think if he was wearing one of your bracelets,
Mm-hmm.
he probably would still be here.
Yeah.
Because those 10 minutes.
Yep.
We missed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, we definitely are getting more active in that. This one?
Relatively new product.
Yeah, we launched it last year at the end of the year. Yeah.
I'm just curious. That's all. Currently, how big's your market? Who are you targeting? How are you targeting
Great
it?
question. That's a great question. So when we launched this product, we thought primarily the market was going to be seniors, so 65 and above. What we found was very different. Actually, the 35 to 55 is the largest market for us. And it's metropolitan women living in metropolitan cities that want to stay safe. They have their smartphone in their purse, and they're walking down the street, and they want to call for help quickly. That ended up being the bigger market. And some of the feedback we got from the independent living facilities that we worked with was that, Jer, the jewelry's beautiful, everyone loves it. Problem is, it needs to be lighter, it needs to be smaller, it needs to be directly connected to the internet. So we took that true market data, and that's what's going into the next products. This is $300 retail. And we currently sell it at Saks, Nordstrom's, Macy's, online. We even have a few units out in Australia. Not sure what they're doing with them out there. Just kidding.
So my question, you had mentioned predictability.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit more on that? Because as a person progresses, you understand that information, that data is going to be just as valuable. So rather than the response, which is just as valuable, I'm more interested in learning about the predictability and what you're viewing and how that data is utilized.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit about this, okay? So we actually have a brilliant guy. His name's Dr. Morales. He has a PhD in AI, machine learning. So him and Dave Elam, they created convolutional neural networks, which basically learn from the data and the baseline data, changes in balance and motion and gait, and looking at dehydration changes, and take that to predict basically when the changes, once you cross a threshold. You know, so once the speed.
That would trigger a response by wearing that.
This product, we haven't included that in there. Because it's truly diagnostic then, right? And so that's an FDA. This is a direct-to-consumer product. We have the ability to upload things like that. That requires FDA approval. So that's still on the moonshot kind of projects. But we've done extensive work looking at the predictions and correlations, and it's very promising. Even from motion and balance and gait alone. Not even looking at exotic biosensing, and optical sensing.
Hi, Kara Elizondo. I have a question about what would be your words of wisdom on fusing the industries of San Antonio? The technology, the medical technology you're talking about, our awesome medical system, the tourist industry, and making San Antonio a medical mecca where people begin to do medical tourism.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're making progress. Geekdom, which is where we got started. Those places like that, Port SA now. These places and events like this are critical pieces. You also need lunatics, founders, that want to take the big jump. Because they need to be in the ecosystem, and you need to have other lunatics present that have done it before, that you can say, wow, if that guy, that idiot Jerry has done it, I should be able to pull this off. And hopefully there's one person in here that's going to think that and saying, go do it. And I hope so. But I think that's the key, is we need to create this environment where we help each other. Yep. That's a good question. And when I work with young entrepreneurs too that are just getting started, and they're like, well, Jer, there's this competitor and this competitor and this competitor. I'm like, yeah, thank God. That's a real market. If I get someone that comes to the table with a product and we're looking at, oh, there's nothing out there. Yeah, there's not a market here. You want to see those competitors. I mean, you look at any of the mainstream technology companies. Google was a 15th or 16th search engine. Yahoo, Alta Vista, Netscape, they were all there and big and growing. AOL. So finding your secret sauce and your ability, and what WiseWear is we can adjust. We have innovators, and we can adjust and adapt products. We're not a one-trick pony. And I think that's really, really key, is you need to be flexible and adaptable. We pivoted 15 times before this thing came out. We had soft, flexible sensors that looked like a postage stamp, didn't work, wasn't mass manufacturable. We worked on a round Evolve. It was called Evolve for physical fitness. Launched it on Indiegogo. We thought we were going to do so well, and we sold like $14,000 worth. We're like, whoa. And we failed, and we went back to the table, and we're like, what's going on? So there's a lot of pivots. We got to go put the product out there and keep going. And it gets back to your question.
Do you have, when it comes to your hardware, do you have any public APIs or development kits?
Yes.
Where-
We can give you things, yeah. I got all the smart people are back at the office, yeah.
Health industry, universities, or other app developers, and how do you anonymize it?
That's the
so
plan.
that you don't risk
Is to
personal
make it all
information?
available. Yep.
Thank you. At a high level, can you describe the worst day you've had at WiseWear?
Who? There's been plenty. Yeah. I mean, truly, the ups and downs are significant. I'd say I'm a very emotional guy, and I think of fellow partners in the business as brothers or sisters. And so when I see certain individuals maybe leave the company, that hurts, because I want them to be there and to keep growing. But I understand that we're not always going to be the best dance partners. And there's sometimes a time where they need to dance with somebody else for a while, and that's great. But I think that's one of the hardest parts of being in a fast-moving startup technology company is, the average turn is like 2 years. Even at stable technology companies like Twitter, 2 years, and then you move on to something else. It's pretty fast, high velocity, low mass, and that's the only way to get the momentum. So you're moving fast, and so it burns a lot of people out. Yep, very interested. Very interested. Yeah, we have a lot of different ideas and things we're working on. Belts, shoes. Yep. Yeah. Working on it. Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge in the first 3 years at WiseWear, and how did you overcome it?
It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, definitely. I mean, it makes formal education the formal education, I learned the fundamentals, but actually being the small entrepreneur, everybody thinks your baby's ugly. From the beginning, even when you start getting some traction, like, well, you're in Saks, you're in here, but you haven't done 20 million in revenue. It's like, we don't have any dollars for marketing. Your baby's always ugly. So it's just always going to the meetings, and you gotta fight to a higher weight class, always. I'm meeting with execs and directors from Cartier to Verizon to AT&T, and we're 8 people in a garage practically in San Antonio. So it's always fighting way above your weight class. And I think that's tough. You really need to be able to sell the Kool-Aid before there's any Kool-Aid, both to partners and big companies. And the big companies move so slow, like a big ship. The startup's like on a little speedboat. And they can move and adjust, and they're like, come on, let's partner. So we go through a lot of that, and that's part of the challenges too, is come on. We're ready to go. Big company's got 15 decision makers and this and board approval and here, and before you know it, 2 years go by. So those kind of long-term cycles are tough on a startup. But I think always fighting above your weight class it's tough. It takes a certain kind of underdog personality to always have to show your worth and your value to whether it's an employee or a partner.
Knowing what you know now, if you could go back 6 years ago and give yourself advice, what advice would that be?
Wow, these are fantastic questions. I think he may just have won this. That's pretty good there. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Mom? I'm going to poll the audience. I don't know. You know, that's a really good question, but the only thing I do is put everything I got on the line. I leave nothing out. If it takes $100 a week, I do it. That's the only thing I can guarantee, is the time, the hours, the grit, the pain. I didn't realize the emotional, psychological pain of the process. And there's really no way to prepare for that. But you need to go through it. So I think that, I mean, we've been blessed. So I'm very fortunate on where we are today, but it's definitely been a roller coaster. And my only advice would have been 6 years ago, make sure I got enough rest, because there's not a lot of rest. Yeah.
Oh, hi, Josh Avila, I guess lunatic. I also go to Geekdom, and I'm starting to start a company that helps vets and special populations have easier access to nutrition and exercise.
Nice, congratulations.
And my question is, would you like to help me?
Yes. Yep, Holly's right here. She coordinates the schedule, so all you have to do is we'll set up a quick email and meet this week.
Thanks.